Hi, it's Mark Bostert from Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver for the Pawlik Automotive podcast. How are you doing this morning, Bernie?
Doing very well.
So, 20 years best auto repair in Vancouver as voted by your customers, and probably going to win a couple more, I bet, this year. Today's victim is a 2016 Jaguar XF. What was happening with this fine British luxury automobile?
So this car came to our shop with it was basically just due for a maintenance service. No concerns. Not a very old car. 2016 is 3 years old at this point. I guess maybe 4. I guess we're almost ready for the new model years, being July. So 3-4 year old car, basically due for a maintenance service.
So that's a B service. What's involved in a B service on a Jag?
Yeah. So the B service, essentially there's two major services. There's the A and the B. The A is an oil change and a basic inspection. The B, which we did this time, is an oil and filter change and then a full vehicle inspection. So on this vehicle, we would remove the wheels, inspect the brakes, do a full steering suspension inspection, inspect all the fluids, full visual inspection under the hood, test the battery and charging system, pressure test the cooling system, do the full look over of the vehicle. Scan the vehicle computer, see if there's any codes stored, usually clear them because often on these kind of cars, you'll get a number of codes stored for a variety of things that are not really relevant, but one or two systems pick up a little flaw, they set a code and store it, and we would just reset all that. So that's basically it.
So you follow a checklist when you're doing that, is that correct?
Very, very thorough checklist, yeah. Yeah, and it's based on our own checklist plus the manufacturer's, has a list of specific items. But generally speaking, from car to car, they're all the same. Unless, of course, you have an electric car, there's different, there's less fluids to look at, and obviously you're not going to look at spark plugs on an pure electric car. So there's different checklists of things for different cars. But for the most part, any gasoline or diesel powered vehicle will have the same checklist in general.
So were there any concerns with the vehicle?
No, this car came out with a clean sheet. We can use a British soccer term. Nothing much found on it. It only has 12,000 kilometers, so the owner drives very little. 4 years old, really very little going on with the car. So next service, I think a brake fluid flush would be ideal, but which will be in a year. But other than that, it's really everything is in very good shape.
So anything interesting about this vehicle that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to. Well, one thing I really like about this vehicle, and we'll start the picture show in a minute, is just what happens when you start the vehicle up. There's some pretty cool. If you've never been in a car, if you have one of these cars, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you've never been in one of these cars, it's pretty neat when you press the start button. A few cool things happen. So we have a little video and of course a few pictures. So we'll just start. There's the 2016 XF Jaguar right there, and let's just get in. There's a neat little video here. I'll just share. That's basically the start and stop procedure on the vehicle. So when you start it, you can see the gear shift knob. There's no actual handle anymore. It's just a button you rotate, pops up and down. And also what I didn't show in this video is on the instrument panel on the dash, there are 2 vents, air vents, and they rotate open. So they're normally in a closed position. And when you press the start button again, these vents rotate to the open position. It's kind of cool. And then you shut the car off, they kind of go down. So it's kind of neat. There's some neat little hideaway features on this car.
So with those kind of interesting features, electrical features, did you want to show the engine and stuff too?
Yeah. Just here's a view of the engine compartment. So I'll just talk about the engine for a second because I know you have a question to ask me about those neat features. But here's a view of the engine compartment with the plastic cover on the top. This is a 3-liter supercharged engine, which is remarkably like the 5-liter engine you'll find in some other Jaguar models and Range Rovers. And the engine, interestingly enough, looks pretty much like the 5-liter but it's just everything's just a little shorter because it has two less cylinders. But the supercharger, a lot of the piping, very, very similar in design. So it's neat when you see a manufacturer use that kind of thing, in a way where they take the same engine, they kind of scale it back
So they scaled it from a V8 to a V6.
yeah, and it kind of reminds me. Now, I don't really know the internal engineering of this in the internal engineering of the engine, but there's different things you have to do in a V6 motor. But Americans, when they went from the V8s seemed to be popular, they went down to V6s in the 1970s for fuel economy. They had a lot of engines. They kind of did this where they take a V8 and they basically chop two cylinders off, and they did it in kind of a rushed fashion, and some of them didn't quite. The engine didn't quite fire properly. There's like odd fire V6s just by nature of the construction of the engine. Anyways, we're getting kind of technical here, but anyways, nonetheless, it's a neat way to do things, and probably saves a lot of money in the long run.
All right, for the doodads, for the electronic doodads, the question that pops up in my mind is what happens when the battery goes dead? How do you start the car?
Well, you start the car with a jump. Okay, so you start the car. You can actually jump start the car. Like generally, the battery, I believe, on this vehicle is either located in the trunk or under one of this. Probably in the trunk. Usually hard to get at. Used to be a battery was always found under the hood of a car, but that's doesn't happen much anymore. It's always remotely mounted somewhere, which is probably a good idea because you can cram more under the hood. However, this big red positive symbol here, if you pull that cap off, you can actually attach a jumper cable to the positive, and then just find a good ground somewhere else under the hood. Some vehicles actually have a ground tab, and this one may have one. I don't see it readily available, but you can often even use something like a bolt from the top of the strut if you had to. So that's how you jumpstart the battery. But if that doesn't work, then you might wonder, well, what if everything's just completely dead and you can't even? I need to roll the vehicle to get it on a tow truck. There is a way, and that is there's with this engine cover off. There's a little piece right here, little lever. So this is a tip if you own one of these cars. There's a little lever right here, and if you pull on this lever, this will actually will actually shift the transmission into neutral, so you can roll a car. So it'll actually lock up, and you can do that. So there's your tip if you own one of these cars. Of course, it has this little booklet picture here with a question mark.
Information.
Information. That's right. Yeah, I knew I was saying the wrong thing there. Anyways, that you can refer to your owner's manuals. What they suggest here. So this is a good thing. Always good to keep your manual in your car. By the way, it's another tip. Because you never know when something comes up and you go, hey, how do I do that? Or what's supposed to happen here? So keeping your owner's manual in your car is always a good thing to do. And that's your tip for the day.
So Jaguar XFs, obviously this is a complex luxury vehicle. So a lot of electrical parts, a lot of superchargers, etc. How are they for reliability?
Well, they're pretty good. I often think of Jaguar, as having the reputation of needing to be in the shop for repairs every week. They used to be like that a long time ago. But when I think about it, they lived in a world of cars that weren't very reliable. Anyways, as time has gone by, cars have just got better and better and better and more reliable. But so too have Jaguars. These are pretty reliable cars, but they do have a lot of expensive things to go wrong. And one thing that that we've seen on some of these, like a little slightly older models, is people, cooling system problems. They'll develop coolant leaks. That's something that's really important to keep an eye on. We had someone a while ago, their water pump was leaking. They left it too long and destroyed their engine. A while ago, I was taking a little walk. We have a really nice walk over a bridge called Lionsgate Bridge in Vancouver. And I was walking across the bridge on a nice sunny day, and I noticed a guy coming up the hill in a nice Jag of similar type to this. And I could see smoke coming out from under the car. I'm going, that's very unusual. And then I could smell antifreeze in the air. So this person obviously had a coolant leak. And I think, I hope that guy fixes that car soon, because otherwise he's going to cook his engine too. So if with regular maintenance, you can deal with these things. But of course, if a low coolant warning light comes on, take it seriously. Much as we like the work of changing an engine, we really don't, because it's money that you could have, it's wasted money.
So there you go. If you're looking for service for your Jaguar in Vancouver, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112. Again, that's for people who live in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. 604-327-7112 to book your appointment. Call to book because they're always busy. Otherwise, you're not going to get in. And of course, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. There's more information on the website, pawlikautomotive.com. Hundreds of videos and articles on there. Our YouTube channel, Pawlik Auto Repair, same story, close to 400 videos on there, all makes and models and types of problems and repairs and maintenance and advice about vehicles of all kinds. We love them all, mostly.
Yep, we do.
Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for watching.